Imagine walking into the Monte-Carlo Country Club, the sun glistening off the Mediterranean, the smell of the salt air mixing with the crushed red brick of the clay courts, and seeing two of the most unpredictable, charismatic, and downright entertaining players in the history of the sport standing across the net from one another. We aren't just talking about a tennis match, we are talking about a theatrical performance. On one side, you have the legendary showman, the human highlight reel, Gael Monfils. On the other, the king of the underarm serve, the man who treats a tennis court like a chessboard made of chaos, Alexander Bublik. This round of 32 clash at the 2026 Monte-Carlo Masters is more than just a battle for ranking points. It is a generational crossroads, a clash of styles, and quite possibly one of the most fun matchups we will see all clay court season. If you've been following the tour lately, you know that Gael Monfils is in the twilight of an absolutely shimmering career. At 39 years old, every time Gael steps onto the dirt, it feels like a gift to the fans. He arrived on the professional scene back in 2004 as a teenager with world-class athleticism that redefined what we thought was possible on a tennis court. Fast forward over 2 decades, and he's still here, still sliding, still hammering those forehands, and still holding records that command respect. Did you know that Monfils actually holds the record for the most ATP Masters 1000 match wins among all Frenchmen? With 145 wins, he sits above legends like Richard Gasquet. That tells you everything you need to know about his longevity and his big stage temperament. But as we look at his 2026 season, the road hasn't been easy. The age is showing, the recovery is slower, and the early exits at the ASB Classic and the Australian Open had many wondering if the tank was finally empty. However, you can never count out a champion in a place like Monte-Carlo. This is a tournament where Monfils has history. He was a finalist here back in 2016. Coming into this match against Bublik, Gael just pulled off a vintage escape act against Talon Griekspoor. After dropping a tight first set, Monfils dug deep, found that extra gear, and overwhelmed the world number 32 in a 3-set thriller. That win was a statement. It told the locker room that even at 39, if you give Monfils an inch, he will take the whole court. He's playing with house money now, looking to add a few more core memories before he hangs up the rackets for good. But to get past the next hurdle, he has to solve a puzzle that is notoriously difficult to read: Alexander Bublik. Bublik is a fascinating character in the modern game. For years, he was the guy who openly admitted he didn't always love the grind of the tour, yet his talent was so undeniable that he stayed in the mix. But something shifted in the last year. After sliding down to number 80 in the world in April 2025, Bublik went on a tear that redefined his career. By January of this year, he cracked the top 10 for the first time. Think about that journey, from nearly falling out of the top 100 to becoming an elite staple of the game. He's become the first player from Kazakhstan to reach the second week of every single Grand Slam, a feat he completed at the Australian Open earlier this year. He's no longer just a trick shot player, he's a consistent, dangerous winner. He's already picked up a title this year in Hong Kong, defeating Lorenzo Musetti, and he's shown a level of focus that we rarely saw from him in the early years. Now, let's talk about the surface, because this is where the plot thickens. Traditionally, clay was the enemy for Alexander Bublik. He used to joke about how much he disliked the dirt, the long rallies, and the way it neutralized his massive serve. But look at what happened in 2025, he claimed his first ATP clay court title at the Swiss Open. He has officially learned how to transition his game to the red clay. He's shortened the points, used his drop shots more effectively, and accepted the grind. Monfils, on the other hand, is a natural on clay. He was a French Open semi-finalist in 2008 and has spent his whole life sliding on this stuff. On paper, the surface favors Gael's movement, but in reality, at 39, long clay court rallies are the enemy. If Monfils gets dragged into 20-shot exchanges over and over again, his legs will eventually give out. When we look at the head-to-head history, Monfils actually leads the series 2-1. He knows how to beat Bublik. He knows how to handle the pace and the unpredictability. But here's the kicker, they have never played each other on clay before. Every previous meeting was on a hard court. This changes the physics of the matchup entirely. On clay, Bublik's underarm serves and delicate drop shots become even more lethal because the ball stops in the dirt. Conversely, Monfils' ability to defend and counterpunch is amplified. It's going to be a game of cat and mouse. Who strikes first? Who blinks? The keys to this match are quite specific. For Monfils, he has to keep the points short. I know that sounds counterintuitive for a clay court specialist, but against a younger, fitter top 10 player like Bublik, Gael cannot afford a 3-hour marathon. He needs to use his serve to get free points and look to dictate with his forehand early. If he becomes a backboard and just tries to outrun Bublik, he might win the first set, but he'll likely fade in the second and third. We saw him struggle with consistency in Miami and Indian Wells, often falling in the second round. To break that cycle here in Monte Carlo, he needs the crowd behind him and a very aggressive mindset. For Bublik, the mission is simple: stay focused. We know Alexander can hit a 130 miles per hour serve and then follow it up with a double fault while trying an underarm second serve. When he's on, he's unplayable. When he's off, he can exit a tournament in 45 minutes. Coming off a disappointing loss to Matteo Berrettini in Miami, Bublik will be hungry to prove that his top 10 status isn't a fluke. He has the variety to pull Monfils out of his comfort zone. Expect to see Bublik using the slice backhand to keep the ball low, forcing the 6 feet 4 inches Monfils to bend his aging knees constantly. That is the tactical blueprint to beating an older legend: make them move vertically, not just horizontally. As we look at the betting odds and the predictions, the smart money is leaning toward the younger man. Bublik is currently in the prime of his career, while Monfils is fighting against the dying of the light. The odds makers see Bublik as the favorite, and it's hard to argue with the logic. He's been more consistent in 2026, he's higher in the rankings, and he has the fitness advantage. However, if there is one place where an upset feels possible, it's a Masters 1000 in front of a European crowd that treats Monfils like royalty. My personal analysis? I think we are in for a display of high-level shot-making. We might see more drop shots in this match than in the rest of the tournament combined. Both of these guys love the tweener, both love the no-look pass, and neither is afraid to fail while trying something spectacular. But when the dust settles on the Monte Carlo clay, I expect Bublik's weight of shot and his recent confidence to be the deciding factor. Monfils showed a lot of heart against Griekspoor, but following up a grueling 3-setter with a match against a top 10 opponent is a massive physical ask for a 39-year-old. The prediction here is a win for Alexander Bublik. While Monfils will certainly have his moments of brilliance, perhaps a screaming cross-court forehand that brings the crowd to their feet, Bublik's ability to serve his way out of trouble should see him through. If you're looking at betting tips, there's a strong case for Bublik winning in straight sets, simply because the physical toll on Monfils might be too much if the match goes long. Also, don't expect many tiebreaks. Both of these players tend to have streaky service games where breaks of labels come in bunches. Regardless of the outcome, this match represents everything we love about tennis. It's the veteran versus the disruptor. It's the record breaker versus the history maker for Kazakhstan. As fans, we should savor every minute Monfils is on the court, because we don't know how many of these big stage matches he has left. But at the same time, we have to appreciate the evolution of Bublik, who has gone from a talented wildcard to a legitimate contender for the biggest titles in the sport. So, who do you have winning this one? Can the legendary Gael Monfils turn back the clock one more time in Monte Carlo and prove that age is just a number? Or is Alexander Bublik simply too strong, too young, and too confident right now to be stopped on the dirt? This is exactly the kind of match that reminds us why the Monte-Carlo Masters is such a special stop on the calendar. Make sure you're tuned in, because with these two, you truly never know what's going to happen next. Drop your predictions in the comments below. I want to hear if you think Monfils has one more miracle left in him. Check out our other videos on the screen now for more match previews and ranking updates, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.